Road 96 Mile Zero is the prequel to the procedural storytelling game that loves to mix politics with gaming, the acclaimed Road 96. Mile Zero tells the story of Zoe, one of the characters we meet in the original game, before the events on the famous highway. Mile Zero starts with the country's only news anchor, Sonia Sanchez, presenting the community of White Sands, where the current president Tyrek is going to give a speech to reveal his candidacy for re-election. Kaito, the new character and Zoe's best friend, is listening to the radio, and when he remembers his sister, the biggest difference in Mile Zero appears, an unexpected skate session with music, where you must jump on the rhythm, dodge objects, and follow the path to get the best score. It's unexpected because, although many games exist in the original game, such as Alex's video game or when you play the trombone with Zoe herself, in Mile Zero this is one of the main mechanics that separates the chapters of the game and tells the story in a different and sometimes much grander way, with various explosive and psychedelic moments. There are a total of 10 songs that range from original compositions for the game to bands like The Offspring. Outside of this psychedelic world in the heads of the characters, we have a much more familiar game for those who play the original. You switch perspectives between Zoe and Kaito during the game, and both have very different political views that change as you make choices along the way. For those who haven't played or don't remember the original, Patria is a country governed by Tyrek, an oppressive president who uses the state to keep the working class down while exploiting their labor for his personal gain, using the state machine to stay in power. The presidential term in Patria lasts 10 years, and from 1986 to 1996, Tyrek's ruled with tyranny. The only candidate from the opposition party is Senator Flores, who without state control has no chance. If two parties, one red and one blue, remind you of something, it's intentional. If it's not clear, there's a wall on Patria's border that separates the country from the rest of the world. And not only are immigrants not allowed in, but the inhabitants should not leave. Some will say that Patria is more similar to a country in Eastern Europe or Asia than one in North America, but that's okay. It's difficult to talk about Mile Zero without giving away spoilers, so I'll try to simplify it as much as possible. With each new chapter, you start in control of one of the two characters in their secret hideout. From here, you can choose to go to 3 other places: Oasis Villas, the luxurious gated community where Zoe lives, the presidential park where Tyrek will give his speech, and Tyrek Square, where Kaito and his family live. The order in which you choose to follow does not change the events or your choices. It only affects the order on which things will happen. Unlike the original game, where stories are told in procedural order, meaning anything can happen in a very different order, and this can influence how well you know each character. Here you have the whole story, regardless of the order you follow, without having to play more than once, as was the case in Road 96. In these places you can explore freely, with political choices at every moment, such as graffiti or tearing down political propaganda posters if you disagree with the current government, or fixing those posters if you agree. Helping people in these places can also change your position on the political spectrum. In Zoe's case, this spectrum ranges from certainty in the current government, this is the case because she's the daughter of Tyrek's oil minister and lives comfortably immersed in the dominant ideology, to doubt when confronted by Kaito's ideas, who, being the son of workers, does not trust the current regime. Kaito's political spectrum ranges from revolutionary to also doubt. Depending on the player choices, this balance leans towards one side or the other. Road 96 Mile Zero, just like in the original game, talks about a working class that lives segregated and oppressed by a society controlled by the bourgeoisie. A game that talks all the time about revolution, about young revolutionaries in search of a new future, but at no point has the courage to show the true symbols of this revolution. When Kaito asked me to graffiti something in their hideout that represents this fight, it was easy to think of something.
Foice, martelo e com o copo na mão, vermelha é nossa bandeira e o nosso coração.
Kaito draws the same symbol, only in the game universe, a symbol that represents the Black Brigade. a group of revolutionaries that tries to forcibly remove Tyrek's authoritarian power and is accused by the media as a terrorist group responsible for the 1986 attack that killed many innocents. Although it talks about a search for abstract freedom, which can fall into the fallacy of freedom in a country like the United States, Road 96 talks very well about the ideological role of the media in a fragile bourgeoisie democracy, about the power of a ruler who can use this state machine to remain in power, with the support of the dominant class, something that we have seen being applied in real life in these last elections here in Brazil, and talks mainly about young people who fight for a different future, for a society where the dominant class is the class that actually produces wealth, the working class. Perhaps a little more clarity and courage in its symbols would make Road 96 Mile Zero an even more provocative game, but it would certainly also make it a game much more attacked and diminished by the hegemonic media. Road 96 Mile Zero expands the universe of the original in a much more colorful and musical way, but does not fail to make the necessary questions, showing the scars of a society dominated by an economic minority, and the constant struggles of marginalized groups that need to go to the limits to fight against the giant dominant machine. It is a game that talks very well about the fragility of democracies, especially Western ones in the current world, and about the increasingly evident and bloody slaughterhouse that is late capitalism, approaching more and more its worst form, a form that becomes more inevitable every day. Our future is dark and tragic, and it takes the movement and the gigantic effort of an entire class together to change it. The game knows this very well, even if it is afraid of being revolutionary in the strict sense of the word, as in its themes. Road 96 Mile Zero is an important fictional portrayal of a reality that is very easy to identify, more than many can admit.